Hello and welcome to, can you believe it, it's program 51 of the Ammach Files, and it is the 6th of October and absolutely pouring down here. Don't know what it's like where you guys are, but anyway, glad to say I got my new fire up and burning fantastically, so no more freezing nights. Hallelujah, that's wonderful. So the Ammach Files in 2015 coming to the end of the first year. Now, I just want to remind people, in case they've forgotten, that there is a workshop with the biolocation team on the 31st of October. Now, that is a Saturday. It's a day workshop. We're starting 10:30, finishing 4:30. Now, the forensic dowsing, or they sometimes say that sensing is also a good term to use, is all about looking at the tools that these guys have devised and also using some of the archaeological terms like stains that are already around and seeing how they apply to what these guys have been finding and seeing. Now, these are holographic entities, sometimes actually there, and other times these are old images. For example, Hilary Porter had a jumper with some splatters on. I think I mentioned this before, and they were able to see in the magnetic field a 3D holographic image of what it was that she'd encountered, which had that relationship to those spatter marks. So this is really super exciting stuff. It is another level of evidence. Everybody always calls for evidence in this field, and it is super difficult to get it. It is so subjective. But now and again, we get these really material things. So we do have the jumper. There has been already, although it's 20 years ago, a higher than normal, but still quite small, background gamma radiation recorded. So it shows that there is some anomaly with the jumper. And, you know, there aren't a lot of other physical things that we can use or we have. The impression marks, the radar returns, things like that, they're all good, but people still want more. So the biolocation team's workshop on the 31st of October is about giving you guys some tools which you can do your own experimenting and research and hopefully begin to feed back a body of information that will grow as it has been growing over the last 4 years with those guys. And so we can really have something in the UK that is, you know, really of some weight out there in the field of this research area, which is so important. So do come along there if you haven't done that already. You can book your place online at www.ammach.co.uk or www.alienabductionuk.com. If you want to come and you don't want to pay by PayPal, you can pay on the door, but I need to know, folks. So give me a buzz or a text on the Ammach line or send me an email at ammach@hotmail.co.uk so I know, because I'm providing a light lunch and I need to know numbers. So that's that bit with the biolocation. And do, as I say, look up their work as well. And I'll be reporting on that down the line over the year as I become much more involved and embedded in the work that they're doing. It really is groundbreaking stuff. And it's a first. There is no one else doing this work on the planet the way they are. So, to tonight's show. I have two wonderful guests. The first hour, I have invited Bill Brooks. Now, I have to really practice that because Bill has taken another pseudonym, and this is it, for safety reasons. I'm not going to go into the reasons for the safety or the need for that safety issue. I just hope you guys will bear with me. It is important. I know now and again it happens that when people give me information or provide a confidential connection, and then that goes public, sometimes there are other elements that come on board and can cause real problems. And sometimes it is down to personal safety. And I'm sure you appreciate that I have to look after the folks who come to me. And so for that reason, I'm going to introduce Bill Brooks, and he is all the way over in Wales. Now, there will be some of you who will know his name, know his voice rather, won't know his new name, know him by the old name, and you can ask me if you like by message and I will reply. But we're going to hear a particular part of Bill's story tonight, but we are going to invite him on first just to hear what it was like to come back from the dead. because this time last year, bar a few days, he died. So he died quite dramatically, and it was only because of an unusual occurrence, i.e. the paramedic had never before had the kit in his bag to do the defib, that he is with us today. So that tells me that this guy is pretty special and has some more very important material to share. Since we have written the book together, which is, as we speak, with a publisher, which is called 44, that gives you all a big clue there, Bill has had more sightings and some other downloads which have not all gone in the book. We have to, at some point, draw a line. So I'd like you all to give a warm welcome by a ah and a distinct listening voice there to Bill. So, hey, Bill, welcome to the Ammach Files in your new identity. How are you?
Good evening.
Have we got you? Good evening.
How are you?
I'm really good. What's the weather like with you? Are you being rained on out of house and home?
It's peeping.
Listen, we might have a little bit of difficulty with the breakup of Skype there, Bill, so we will do our best to hang on to you for this hour. But I'd just like to go back to some of the things that you've been telling me you've been seeing in the skies over the last, I don't know if it's just the recent days, but certainly over the last month. Almost daily we were speaking at one time and you were saying, I can't believe it, they're there again. So just tell us some of the images that you were seeing through your window at home whilst you were making coffee in between phone calls to me.
Well, I see through the back door. When I went to make a cup of coffee, I normally go to my back in the sky, which is quite normal for me. And I don't see very often, very much. But over the last 3 weeks, there's been a hold-up of triangles. It's mainly triangle. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, coming through loud and clear for me.
It's mainly triangles I'm seeing. I saw a ball of fire come over. I live in an old people's block, and a friend of mine who's a farmer lives at the other end of the block. When I saw the 3 triangles on the Sunday night I was talking to you, Joanne, remember?
Yes, I do.
You remember that?
Yes, I do.
On the Sunday, sorry, that was Thursday night I saw the triangle. On Sunday, he came to me. Now, he's a farmer. He knows nothing about anything but sheep, cows, and fields. He doesn't know anything else. He's got no idea of anything. And he come over to me and he said, you're an ex-soldier, aren't you? And I said, yeah. He says, what are the rockets that are firing? The army are firing up. And I said, what are you talking about? And when he's out in the fields at night with the sheep, he's a very old man. He's nearly 80. He just retired yesterday, actually. He decided to retire, which is a good thing. He said he's seeing these balls of fire in the sky, looking like rockets, slow rockets. He hasn't got a clue what he's talking about. He's seeing it all the time. Over the last 60 years, he's seen these things. So he didn't exactly see what I saw because he was on the other side of the block and he couldn't see what I was seeing. And I couldn't see what he was seeing. But what he saw, I saw it about 6, 8 months ago, coming the opposite way, put it that way. Which is very interesting, I think, because there's a man talking to me who knows nothing at all except sheep, cows, fields, and tractors. He knows nothing at all. He's got no idea of life. Very lovely man, he really is.
So,
sorry.
No, I was just going to say. So, when you mentioned, because you mentioned the UFO thing, to him, didn't you?
No.
You didn't say that they might be UFOs.
Well, I'd say it's probably UFOs, but.
Oh right, yeah.
He wouldn't have took that on board. He wouldn't know what a UFO was. He said, are they beyond the UFOs? Because I said he's probably a UFO, and he said, is that what they call him in the army? He didn't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
He's a lovely man, but he hasn't got any idea of anything but cows and sheep.
Yeah. I mean, that's just interesting, isn't it, as corroboration from another party. And again, everybody's looking for corroboration and evidence. So it's just, and it's nice for you. I remember you saying at one time, God, you know, am I the only person seeing all of this? Is there nobody else?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that was really, really interesting. The other thing that I really wanted to flag up for this evening's program, and it's a bit of an unusual one because it isn't overtly UFO or ET, but I think, and maybe you think, there is a relationship. Now, I just want to say, just addressing everybody, that Bill has had some absolutely anomalous and very strange, high weirdness strange events, and one or two of them have run the course of many, many years, causing him a tremendous amount of distress and concern and absolute puzzlement as to why. Now, I'll get Bill to talk about this shortly, but I'm just going to play a clip in a moment, which is of Fred West. Fred West was the partner of two serial killers, Fred and Rosemary West, who were captured in the early 90s. And before I tell you much more about that, I'm going to play this clip because that's going to give you, this is actually an interview done with the police, and it's an interview with Fred West himself. It's only just coming up for 7 minutes. And I just want you to hear it so you can hear the vibration of his voice and what he had to say. And then we're going to come back to Bill, and we're going to start in on that part of the story. Now, this is a bit difficult to hear, but a lot of what I hear, people have a lot of difficulty with. And it's very, part of the healing and part of the process of understanding or trying to understand is by sharing information. So I'm sharing this specific bit of Bill's experiences with Bill this evening, starting off with this clip. As I said, it's just about 6 or 7 minutes.
Can I speak, Joanne?
Yeah, I was going to get you to speak after the clip. Do you want to say something before it?
I'm not going to watch the clip. I'm not going to watch it.
Well, no, that's fine. You don't have to.
I don't watch. I'm not going to watch it.
So if you can turn off your mic for the moment if you want to there, Bill, and if we can go ahead with that clip, that will be great. And Bill, if you just remain just quiet there as we play, and then I'll come back to you.
I'm not going to watch this.
No, that's good.
I can't watch it.
No, that's fine. Thanks. Okay. All right, let's play this clip. I think that's us finally at the end of that piece, which I think got doubled up there. So sorry about that, folks. The reason for playing that was because the frequency and vibration in the voice is something that our guest this evening, Bill, has had to deal with in a very peculiar way. And who knows how exactly this has come about. Whether because of Bill's experience, which has not only been with ET of one or two kinds, but also there has been a military mind control element to it. So we're really not sure whether what Bill will be telling us about next is a result of an overview, an observational platform for any others or any other bodies to see how someone else responds to this kind of dreadful scenario. But we're going to talk to Bill and get his feedback because it was him who lived for many years with a reflection of the West. But Bill, if we can come to you now, let's start this story with your meeting one dark night when you were still recovering from your broken ankles that you sustained during your Special Forces training, and how you were on your weekend off and you were hitching a lift back home. And you're in the sort of Bristol area, I think it is, and you're just on a little street where you actually won't think you'll get a lift, but you're walking along there. And tell us the story from there, Bill. Oh, I think we've lost Bill for a minute. Let's see if we can get him back. It's always, I think, much better to hear the story from the person who experienced it. Hi. So I don't know whether you heard that. I was just giving an intro saying let's pick it up from... Okay, so pick it up from where you met.
Can you
in fact,
can you hear me okay?
It's breaking up a bit. So Bill, if we have to kill the camera, we will.
I'll have to turn my camera off.
Okay, let's do that. Sorry about
this. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it is a bit better. Thanks for that.
Hello, radio check. This is 0 to 1.
All right. So
you hear me okay?
Yes, thanks. So if we can pick up that story, Bill, where you are going home on leave with your recovering broken ankles, doing quite well, and it's quite late, and you're going to hitch a lift, and you actually get offered a lift in an area where you don't even think there anyone would be. So let's tell folks what happened then.
Well, this side is the UFO stuff that I've been going through. I think this was part of it, and I believe that they were being studied, and it just, I think it was, I know it's very difficult to go about instances.
I'm just wondering, Bill, we've got a really bad line that's suddenly kicked in. I'm just wondering if it's possible to perhaps phone you on a landline. I'm wondering if that's...
Here, if you want to try that.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see if we can persevere then. I'm sorry, folks, for the very bad Skype. All right, sorry to interrupt. I was just wondering if we could do something about that.
I'll bring you up.
Okay, so okay, it's just us from your end then, Bill. So you continue with your story.
It's probably more okay. It's 40 pieces.
Okay.
Like me. What I now, without talking about the book, I have to talk about the book. This came 2 years before the download. I knew about this because when they caught him, I realised. Now, I'm not a spiritual person or but after my experience, I know that the spiritual world is different the way that people portray it. It's very different. The dark side and the light side. Most people are on the light side. When I sat next to Rosemary West in that van, I'll explain that in a minute, something passed from her to me that was evil. Now, I'm not a Christian, I don't believe in God, but I do believe that there's an evil thing out there, maybe an evil dimension, maybe, because I'm a dimension because of the dimensional travel I did with the alien being, I'll call them. I don't know who they were, but I'm talking sort of spiritually now. Something passed evil to me. 2 years after this happened, it's in the book, I went into a cellar in Germany and had a horrendous experience. I'm not a person that gets frightened. It's difficult to frighten me in any way possible, you know. I'm not a person that gets frightened, but that frightened me. And I don't know why. These beings came out the floor, and I believe it was to do with this experience because his nightmares were of his victims coming out of the ground to get him. That's what I had for all those years. And also, they couldn't do a bit, and I had to keep turning it off. The reason being is because these that they had, that they perpetrated on people, on young girls or whatever. I was boys as well. In my, how can I explain it? It's very difficult to explain. I had nightmares for 18 years. They cut him. And as soon as they cut him, the night went. The birth is what they were doing. Now, after doing this, I had, and I'll explain that now how I went to I was, as you said, I was. Can you hear me okay?
No, it's really not very good at the moment. I'm just seeing if there's, you know, I don't know about anybody else, but I am missing a lot. So it's really quite bad, and I'm just wondering if we can continue. I don't know what anybody else's feeling is, because I don't want to keep you on the air if we're just not going to be able to hear it, which is a real shame. So.
What about
Yeah, so Bill, can we call you on the phone, please?
Well, try that then. That might be better.
All right. So.
But I've lost my phone. Hang on.
Okay. So I tell you what. You just find your phone for a second, and I'm going to go and get the number. I don't. Actually, I do have the number to hand. Let me just have a look here. So let me just grab that. And bear with us, folks. Some of the story that Bill was telling, I will just clarify at one point, because it is so incredible.
Say, Joanne.
It really is. Okay, so that's, sorry, so that other zero then is
Well, I've got the phone if you want to do the phone.
Okie dokie, just bear with us a second then, Bill, if you would. If you just hang on fire there, and we will do our best to...
If you put the phone on, put my face on.
Yeah, that's all right. Don't worry, we'll sort that.
No, I'll put my face on if you want.
Do not worry about that. We will... We're just trying to get the number to gel. 59, let's see if I've got that correct. So sorry about this, folks. Oh, dearie me. Right, okay. So just if you wouldn't mind standing by then, Mike, and we should be able to... I know some other folks had a lot of problems with the Skype tonight, so maybe it's...
I'm sitting by.
All right. That's great.
It'll probably be Wendy when it begins.
Okay, so we're calling you. Oh, the call failed. So let's see what happens. Okay, let me just check that I've got the number correctly.
It said on my call failed.
Hang on, Stephen. I'm sorry, my fault. I'm going blind.
You've been on the wine again.
I wish that was it. Sorry, I misread. I should know this off by heart, but because I've got it on a redial, that was my fault there, Stephen. I apologise. Beg your pardon. So, because I've got it on a redial, I don't look at your number that often, so I'd taken it down incorrectly. Hopefully that will get us there. So we're just okay. We're trying again there. Okay. Yay.
Someone's phone. Just a minute.
That's us, Bill. Bill, mute your Skype, please.
Hello?
That's us, Bill.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, Bill, can you mute your Skype, please? Just turn
I'm going
that.
to turn my sound. Just a minute. I'm going to turn my sound off. Just a second. Just a second.
Nothing like live.
Momento.
No, your Skype is still on.
Bill, can you just mute the Skype?
Right, you can see my face now. I've turned my Skype off, the sound off my Skype. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Gosh,
okay.
That's a bit better.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Can you see my beautiful face?
Absolutely. So listen, can we just get, a lot of the story, for me anyway, got kind of squashed out. So I don't know if you actually explained. So let me just pick up a couple of pieces, and I didn't know if you said them or not. So excuse me if you did. That on that night you were actually given a lift by Rosemary West that you didn't know was Rosemary West at the time. And just explain what happened in the van.
Well, what happened was I was travelling between Plymouth and Stourbridge. Something's happened to Skype. I don't know what's happened.
Don't worry about it. That's fine. Thanks.
Something's gone on. Sorry, I've lost it. I was travelling back between Plymouth and Stourbridge, where I lived at the time. Where my parents lived, where I was staying. And a guy from the Paras, he was a brother of one of the guys in my regiment, which was the Commando Regiment, gave me a lift to just the other side of Bristol. I normally caught the train, or hitchhiked with lorries, but he gave me a lift to there. But he dropped me in a place that I didn't really know where I was. They just dropped me off. You know, it's like special forces. They don't care. You know, there you go. Find your own way. And I started walking, and I thought, I am completely lost. What do I do? And I couldn't get home. Normally, I'd get home for about 9 o'clock to 5:30 to go and have a pint with my mate Mick. You spoke to Mick, haven't you, Joanne?
Mm-hmm.
You spoke to Mick about the ghosty stuff, you know.
Yeah.
That happened after my passing out. Normally, I'd get back 9, 5:30, grab my mate, we'd go for a pint, you know, normally on a sort of Friday night, when I got back from leave, when I came on leave, on weekend. But it was 9 o'clock by the time I'd realised that I was in a position where I wasn't going to get back to Stourbridge before 11 at least. Pubs closed at 10:30 in them days, except the one that I went in. Now, I went in this pub. They dropped me off just about maybe 10 miles from the suspension bridge at Bristol, 10 miles this side, sort of, you know, towards Gloucester. And I went in the pub. I thought, well, I'm going to have a few pints, you know. I really, if you know anything about soldiers, especially in the regiments I've been in, you sleep anywhere, you don't care where you are, you can survive anywhere, really. So I went and had I don't know how many pints, 10 pints in this pub or something. So I came out the pub. Well, as I went in the pub, they said, are you Fred's brother? And now you've got to remember, at this time, it was nearly 20 years later when I realised what they'd said and who they were talking about. They said, are you Fred's brother? And I said, Fred who? They said, Fred, in the caravan up the road. And I said, no, I'm not his brother. Then some guy turned around and said, oh, you look just like him. And I knew that his brother don't look like him. I know that now. And he said something to that effect. And he said, are you a brother we don't know about? This was the guy behind the bar. And this smart aleck, who was standing a few people away from me, turned around and said, maybe Fred's dad had a bike. Well, I mean, I took a bit of offence at that, you know, in a way. But I thought, no, I won't start here. There's too many in here for me. And my ankles hurt. So I just left it at that. And I stayed. They did a lock-in till about 11:30, you know, locked the doors and people having a drink in there. They let me stay, you know, because I was a soldier. They let me stay. And I came out the pub about 11:30. But I came out the pub and I looked and I thought, where the hell am I? You know, where am I now? What do I do? And I saw this road and I saw the bridge. Went under this road and I thought, well, I'll go that. I knew the way the river went and I thought, well, I'll go that way. It's got to lead me to the main road somewhere. So I went on this back road. It was really isolated, nobody there. And I was just casually walking along and I heard a vehicle behind me, and I turned round and I saw what I thought was the old police vehicle. An old police vehicle, you know, the old Black Mariahs. And as I turned and looked, it pulled next to me, and the woman that was in it, she was wearing a black hat, come down to her eyes nearly. She had a pair of glasses on and a scarf. So I couldn't see her face at all, really. I saw her eyes, that was all I saw. And she didn't... It was as though she knew me. Now, I looked like Fred West. I did look like Fred West at that time. I'd put a lot of weight on because I'd been off my legs for 3 months. We used to run all day, and I was very, very fit. I was quite muscly as well. But what happened was, for that 3 months I was off my legs, I got big like Fred West, and I looked like him. I really did look like him. Found that out when I moved to Telford. That's another story in the book. Sorry, I've lost it. Help me, Joanne.
So let's just get to the point where you actually meet up with her. So you're in the van, because we're running a bit out of time.
Actually, I'll tell you, before I got in the van, she looked at me and she said, nastily, get in then. Just like that. No, she said, you're going to get in then? Really nasty, like. As though she was the boss, you know. You do what you're told. You're going to get in then? That makes me think later on, I've looked at a little bit at it and thought she was the main one, you know. So I got in the van and she started laughing. No, not straight away. I got in the van and I turned around and looked at her and she said, who the, you don't mind me swearing, because this is what she said. Who the fucking hell are you?
Yeah, okay.
And she was laughing. I mean, she just kept laughing all the time I was in the van. She kept laughing. And I said, I'm a soldier. I'm looking for a main road to find my way. I'm lost. You know. I didn't tell her I was pissed, which I was. I was absolutely pissed. That's why all this happened, because I was pissed. I didn't realise what was going on. So I get in the van, and she said to me, I said, I'm looking for a main road. She said, I'd better get you to the main road before he sees you. And I saw a guy, who must have been Fred, in the field next to me with a shovel. Realising it now, if I'd have clicked on what they were doing, I'd be dead, I think. If he'd have hit me with that shovel, I wouldn't have realised what was going on. I'd be dead. But anyway, I said to her, I'm looking for a main road. She said, well, I'll take you to the main road before he sees you. And I thought, oh, maybe he's just jealous, a jealous husband or something, you know. So she dropped me off on the main road. Well, as she was saying that, there was a girl, I know it was a girl, behind me, who looked about 15, maybe 16, very young anyway. But it was very dark. I couldn't see very much in the back of the van. She was pulling at my sleeve, saying, help me, they're going to kill me. And then Rosemary West looked at me. She looked at me, and I turned back again to the girl. And the girl she had her legs tied together. I'll explain that in a minute, why I didn't react. She had her legs tied together, and she was lifting up a tarpaulin with this girl underneath, with her eyes wide open. And I thought it was kids playing about after what Rosemary West said. Because this girl said to me, they're going to kill me. And I looked at her, and I looked down at the floor, and there was this girl staring at me. Well, I thought staring at me. It was quite dark. And I turned around. When I turned back around again, Rosemary started laughing. And that's my daughter. I've had to tie her legs together to stop her running into Bristol. She's going off with all the men, in Bristol. I've had to stop her. Well, at the time, I was pissed. And I had no idea that there could be anybody on the planet that could do what they did. I had no idea. Even though I'd seen the Moors murderers thing when I was in the 50s, I think that was late 50s, I think, if I remember rightly. I'd seen that, and we were kept in for a while until, you know, paranoia. All the parents kept all the kids in for paranoia. But I'd never seen anything since then. And this was on, I just took no notice. She took me to the main road. I got into a lorry that was just coming along, actually. I just thumbed him and he took me straight away, probably knowing I was a soldier. And we started driving. I was driving with the guy in the lorry. Sat down, sitting there. I got my berry on anyway. I put my berry on. I put a green berry on just to show I was in the army, you know. And after about 5 minutes driving, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, he said to me, "You got out of that black van there." I said, "What black van?" He said, "The one behind us." He said, that it's behind us now. And I looked and I thought, oh, you know, took no notice of it. But now, with the thoughts I've got now on what happened, I believe that they were following me to see if I stopped at a phone box or something like that.
Yeah.
I think I had a lucky escape. I think I would be dead. If I'd have caught on what they were doing, I'd be dead, I think. Because tell you the truth, I was really pissed as well. And I wouldn't have been able to fight back properly. My ankles hadn't healed that well that I could kick.
Mm.
I think if I'd have kicked somebody, and my ankle would have broken.
So, Bill, can we just go fast forward? So you said that you feel at that time that something from Rosemary West
when
almost
I
passed to
I'm
you.
only
Like
thinking that now, though. I didn't think that at the time. I mean, at the time, it was just quite normal to me. It didn't seem unnormal. Exactly the same as when I went in the army. All the things that happened, I felt normal. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a bit stupid sometimes.
Well,
I don't catch on.
We've had a chat about this and over the time, and it seems to me that you were switched off from responding in a way that you know, perhaps you would expect someone to, when you see what would in hindsight be a dead body under a tarpaulin being lifted up by the feet of a girl whose ankles are tied. I mean, that's you know, it's really, really quite, I mean, I know in later years, you've kind of scratched your head and gone, my God, how could I not have, you know, felt something about that? But I honestly believe that whatever was going on, this is the point you know, kind of making, that, you know, you were not allowed the full complement of your faculties, if you like, in a way, because I've come to know you well over the 3 years we've been working, and I can honestly say that now, of course, you would be wide awake to such an event. And I just want you to flag up also the 18, what was that 18 years? We've just got sort of about 7 minutes left before, you know, say good night to you and thank you very much. But I really want to hear just a bit about those, what happened during those 18 years. And yeah, the nightmares, daymares, yeah.
What happened was, the nightmares didn't start till 1974. This happened in 1971.
You met Rosemary?
72.
Yeah.
Can you remember?
I think it might be 71, actually, yeah.
It was late 71, November, December, November 71, around about there. In 1974, I was in Germany.
Sorry, Bill. Sorry, Bill. I need to interrupt you. Are you just speaking on the phone now? You haven't put Skype back on or anything?
Oh, sorry. I have got Skype on, but I've got no sound on.
No, that's fine. We're on the phone, remember? So that's.
I'll tell you what. I'll turn my Skype off completely. That'll be better.
Okay. All righty.
Is that better?
Okay. So yeah, that's lovely. Thank you. So we're just going back to, you know, what it was like, because it really did disrupt your entire life. Eventually your marriage, and really everything about daily life.
It wrecked my marriage. It wrecked my life. It made me not want to be here or anywhere. Mm. It was the most horrendous thing you could ever imagine happening to you. It really was. The nightmares were what they were doing. And why I believe, and this is what I believe, when you read the story, well, you know, Joanne, I'm sorry, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to the people in a way, you know. When you read it, if you read the book about what's happened over my life, you'll see this. I can't split that from the UFO stuff. In my mind, I can't split the two. The two things are the same thing. They're the same thing. I think they were being looked at as well as I was. I believe I've been studied since I was 10, at least.
Yeah.
Studied, looked into brain, I don't know what you call it. But I believe they were as well.
Yeah. So,
I don't think the aliens, which ones they were, I don't think they manipulated them to be what they were. I think they were already what they were. But I think ET, whatever you want to call these entities that have been messing with us, and I've had a few, I believe that they just saw what was going on and wanted to study it. And I believe they used me. Because, unfortunately, I look like him, and I met him, and I think maybe they wondered why I did nothing about it. Maybe. I've gone all through these scenarios in my head, trying to work it all out. But maybe they thought I hadn't done anything about it. Maybe they thought it was normal. You get it? I don't.
Yeah, no, it's a really difficult one because I mean it's difficult to portray exactly how these nightmares and also waking daymares impacted you because we haven't really had time to really go through it with the with the difficulty of the early sound.
You know, as I said in the book, while that period of time was going on when I started to realise what was going on, and the nightmare was still coming fast and strong, I refused to sleep. I refused to sleep unless I passed out. And I used to pass out, completely pass out, because I wouldn't sleep for weeks and weeks. I'm talking weeks. I would not go to sleep. I was afraid to go to sleep. And when I slept, I got 2 hours and that was enough. But when I woke up, I had the guilt back again. I had guilt. I believed it was me that was doing it. And I believed, if you ever look at the story, the real story of the Ripper, the Boston Strangler, they put him into a mental asylum. They never took him to court in the end for all the people he's killed because he didn't know he was doing it. And he used to have flashbacks of what he was doing. And that's exactly what was happening to me. And I thought that I was like him. I thought it was me that was doing the murders. I thought it was me. And I thought, any time I'm going to be arrested. And that was my main worry, was being arrested. And the body's coming out the ground. And that's what I believe the cellar incident. You'll have to read the book to understand all this. That's very strange, isn't it, Joanne?
It is really strange, and it seemed to be.
I'm not even trying to sell the book. I'm not doing that. I'm saying
to
understand it all, you'll have to read the actual story because it's so strange.
It's quite complicated, and it's very hard. I mean, I know people won't have understood now because it's not possible just in this brief time that we've had some relatively good sound to get the impression across of what actually was happening to you. But the reason I wanted to flag this event, was because of the incredible difficulty of it and what the folks who are experiencers sometimes have to go through. And clearly with the military element that Bill has endured as well, when he was subjected to absolute mind control programming. We think it's probably using LSD and what have you, but the reprogramming of his mind to try and make him an assassin, to try and make him kill when he was angry, was something, it's something to his credit that he has the will of iron that he has. And, you know, I'm not putting this down to ET, I'm not. It seems that there was a combination of factors involved with Bill's experiences, because right from childhood he's had experiences, and it seems that the military somehow knew of him and, you know, spurred him forward unbeknownst to him consciously. And these things that have happened to him after leaving the military they've also had him tagged. And we know this for a fact, and we can't go into that here, but maybe another time if people would like to hear. So, Bill,
Can I just say
have
something, Joanne?
Yeah, and then we're going to have to close. So it has to be a quick.
I realise that, yeah. Can I just say that the reason the military used me for whatever they wanted to use me for, and I forgot to tell you this, Joanne, they stopped me going to court for the fighting. They pulled me in. They let me go into the army, even though I was in trouble with the police for fighting and a lot of other things as well. I was in a lot of trouble, right? And I believe they thought they could use me because of that. They got me out of trouble. And I believe they thought, well, we got him out of trouble, now we can use him for anything. And that's what I believe. I forgot to tell you that.
No, you have actually told me that. Yeah.
I've not told you that.
Yeah, I understand that. But allied to that, you know, with me as looking from the outside, I see also another layer of the picture, which involves, you know, collusion with ET and the military, which we know is true in your case anyway. And I know for a fact
that some military were involved. I'm not saying. I think there's a lot of military that don't know what's going on. I'm not saying that it was a whole military thing. It was a very small number of officers, two in fact, I think, if I remember rightly. About 15 to 16 of us on that abduction, the army abduction, the first one. Yeah. So I'm not, you know, I don't think it's all the army. Yeah. I mean, I talked to guys I was with 30, 40 years ago. I talk to them now. And even though they've had experiences, the one guy was took up into the air in a Land Rover and put back down again. He's now telling me that it must have been something else.
Yeah.
And this is after I haven't spoken to him for 45 years. Mm. And when I spoke to him first, he said, I remember. He was all excited. Then a week later, he's telling me that it didn't really happen.
Yeah.
But he works for the police.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe he's been told to keep his gob shut.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Bill, we have to leave you there for the moment. Thank you very much for coming on, and I'm so glad you're still with us after your last year's event. So we'll speak to you.
You're not as glad as me.
Yeah. We'll speak to you again, and as I say, thanks very much for that. Sorry, everybody, about the sound at the beginning, and we didn't get as much in that first half as I'd have liked, but we can perhaps revisit some of that information another time. So thanks very much, Bill. We'll sign off, and we're going to hit our sounds. We have Jason Mraz, and it's a lovely song called Back to Earth. And then we're going to speak to the Dominican Republic and Sage Guia. Thanks very much.
On.
Thank you. That was lovely. Thank you very much for that choice of song, and welcome Sage to the Ammach Files. How are you over there in the Dominican Republic?
I'm great. Thank you, Joanne. It's nice to be here.
Oh, thank you for coming on. Now, one of the reasons that we connected was because I'm very interested, passionately interested in the health element, and I know you have a gorgeous health retreat over there, which we'll talk about in a minute or two. But I'm, as well as being on the ET side of things, I wanted you to share with us, because we're all interested in health and wellness, how you managed to bring yourself from multiple super chronic health conditions, and many of them, and there's many different health conditions, to full health again. So do just share with us that, because not many people have to go through what you did. So I think that would be fascinating. And then your journey forward to how you brought that around.
Well, long story. And actually, it'll take less than an hour. I actually, I actually think a lot of people go through uh, a, a lot of different ailments throughout a lifetime, but they just don't really realize if it's a dis-ease of the mind or the body or the spirit. And normally most people are connected to the medical system, so when they go through any type of discomfort or dis-ease, they have a tendency to pop a pill or get surgery or those kinds of things. Well, my process as a very young child, at the age of 11, I started out with severe allergies that ended up being asthma, and by the time I was 21, I had a plethora of ailments, including some deemed as incurable by the medical system. And some of those diseases were ulcerative colitis, lupus. I had allergies so severe I was taking 13 pills a day just to keep myself from sneezing and itching to death. I had psoriasis and rheumatoid arthritis and acid reflux. I mean, I can't even remember them all now, but they're on my site. And I was a young mother as well of 3 young children. And as I said, throughout my processes at that young age, and also that kind of mindset where I was mostly focused on physicality, I thought to myself, why am I plagued with all of these diseases? Why me? What's going on? I used to ask the doctors, and by the way, I've always fancied myself as a young child becoming a medical doctor, so I was very interested in medicine at a young age. And doctors would tell me, they'd be running all kinds of tests. In fact, they also told me by the time I was 40, I was probably going to die of colon cancer because my colon was so ulcerated. And so I didn't have much of a long life to look forward to, and especially with the history of my mother's people. Her sisters passed away in their early 50s. My older sister actually passed away at 37. So I thought, okay, I've got to figure something out because I'm 21 years old and I'm already plagued with some serious ailments. And I would ask the doctors, could it be the food? Could it be this? Could it be that? And they just didn't have any answers except here's another pill. And so when it was all said and done, I was taking, I said 13 different allergy medications. Actually, it was 6, but I was on 13 different medications for all of the different ailments and getting sicker and sicker. And then I just really started tapping into my spirit. At the time, I didn't know really what that was, but my true self nature. I just started asking, what's going on? Give me an answer. And then I realized that it wasn't just the physical ailments that was plaguing me. There were emotional issues. I was in a bad relationship, that ended shortly after that with, like I said, 3 young children. And eventually, I realized through my own medical, intuitive, natural processes what was going on with me, and I started to change some things. I changed my lifestyle in terms of what I ate, how I was living, how I was thinking. I got rid of a lot of the emotional baggage that was, weighing me down, and I realized that it was time for me to get my focus off of the dis-ease and get my focus on the direction it was taking me to. And so from there, it became an incredible metaphysical process for me in a spiritual journey.
Well, that's fantastic. So in those processes, was there one main thing that took you forward, or was it many?
Actually, I have to say, as a young child, I was always intuitive. You know, at 7 years old, I just seemed to know what was wrong with people. Not so much what was right with people, but what was wrong with them. Because my mother was always sick. And before she even knew it, I would come in from playing and I'd say, "Oh, are you okay?" And I'd take care of her. And it just was very interesting. And I remember looking up at the sky and asking, why do I seem to know what's wrong with people before they know what's wrong with them? And so at that point, when you say, was it one thing, several things, or many things, initially it became a process for me to tap back into that intuitive consciousness of my spirit and start to listen to that quiet, still voice and trust the responses I was getting. So from those responses, I was led to a raw food lifestyle. Back then, I became a raw foodist. And, well, I have to say, first, I initially just stopped eating all red meat. And I got rid of some of the very toxic things. I was a sugarholic. I would eat bags of candy, you know, at one sitting. It was really awful. So I got rid of some of the most toxic things, and then I realized, oh, I'm not as sick, but this isn't enough. And so I went into a more healthier physical lifestyle, in addition to listening to, I've got to stop taking all of these pills, and doctors don't seem to really have the answer. So where is that answer? And so my process actually included a spiritual awakening, an emotional shifting of understanding that all these diseases actually had a message. And I started listening to those messages. And as they would come in, I'm sure, you know, most people have heard of Louise Hay. She's been around forever.
Yes.
But, you know, when you have issues with the knee, a lot of times it's, you know, there's resentment, arthritis, you know, can represent resentment. And I started realizing I had a whole lot of resentment in my life. So I started to tap into some of those shifts of being a little less resentful, as much as I could at that particular time. So between nature, diet, consciousness, and emotional shifts, it changed my life. And getting out of a relationship that was making me feel even more toxic.
Yeah, so what sort of span, time-wise, are we looking at between sort of the realization of you know, doing something about it and being material about it, i.e. actually physically changing how you were taking things into your body and what way you were doing that? What sort of period of time are we looking at to, you know, before you see some really big changes?
Oh my, it was instantaneous.
Oh, really?
Yes, you know, I'd have to say when I started the dietary aspect of it, within 30 days, I was on no medication. I drained profusely for 8 days. I used 3 boxes of tissues. I will never forget that. That was about 36 years ago. And so in 30 days, I felt physically like an entirely different person. And from the time that I started questioning, you know, traditional medicine, and because I believed that the medical system had the answers. I mean, they were the people that supposedly understood health, but I've now come to realize that they understand a lot about the process of dis-ease, you know, in surgery and those types of things, but not necessarily how to stay healthy. So from the beginning to, excuse me, from the beginning to the point of dietary change, I think, my goodness, within a year, I was just evolving into an entirely different person.
And did your medical people see this and ask you about that at all? Were they curious?
actually a young physician back then who ultimately became alternative. He took me on at, he was straight out of Harvard, or I forget which school it was, but I think it was Harvard. And he was very interested in why such a young person like myself was plagued with so many different, they were basically autoimmune issues.
Yeah.
And I, you know, I really liked him and I respected him because I thought he was really going to help me. But when I embarked upon my 30-day, you know, raw food shift and really getting serious about getting all the junk out of my life, he had diagnosed me with, massive cyst in my breast. I forgot about that one. I got out of the car one day and I lifted my arm and it hit down and I was like, oh my God, I had the most excruciating pain. And I went to him and he examined, did a mammogram, all of that good medical technology. And he found I had massive cyst in my breast. And I said, okay, well, you know, I've made a lot of changes and I'm really trusting it. Give me about 3 months and I'm going to keep doing what I do. And, you know, if nothing changes, he wanted me to have surgery. And I said, if nothing changes, I'll, you know, we'll see. So, he said, what are you doing? I explained. He said, that's a bunch of boogie woogie. That's exactly what he said to me. So I went away, and of course he was trying to discourage me from doing that. And after 3 months, I had no cyst in my breast. And before that, I drank an excessive amount of caffeine coffee. I mean excessive, when I say excessive. And when I came back, he, of course, couldn't contribute it to what I was doing. He could only say, well, you know, maybe it wasn't such, and he was actually kind of discouraging me from continuing my healthy new lifestyle. And 20-some years later, he became an alternative doctor, talking about boogie woogie, and we ended up sharing some of the same patients.
How wonderful. That's absolutely amazing. Which takes us on to what you ended up doing, because you sort of fast-tracked yourself into the nursing side of things, although you didn't particularly want to go into nursing per se. Tell us about that.
Well, I always had this gut feeling, this intuitive insight about helping people heal. And I always say what we teach most, what we teach is what we want most for ourselves. And I've always just wanted to be healthy. I couldn't even think about anything else except waking up and feeling good. And so I went into that profession before I came across, a new way of thinking and living and being, because I thought I would find the answers for myself. And I became more, and at the time, I was doing my lifestyle. I worked for 6 medical doctors, and they were so bothered by the way that I lived. They actually encouraged me, I'll use that word, to have a blood test every month because they thought that it was an unhealthy way of living. And back then, 36 years ago, they didn't know much about, trans fatty acids, and, they thought, they would tell me I would be eating an avocado and they'd say, oh, that's high in fats, and, because they didn't really have the education that a lot of people have now just from looking at the internet. So it was like being out there in left field with a whole bunch of supposedly normal people telling you.
Real pioneer.
Yeah. And thank God, I'd have to say, my current husband now, who became my husband then, we both started studying life science nutrition, and that's how this whole thing got started for me in terms of the physical aspect of it. So, I had the support of him.
Yes. And as well as all of those stressors, you also had some other things to go through. I know you said you lost your sister very early. You also lost your mum, and you lost other members of your family.
Yes.
So that was, I mean, there was just an environment around you which was incredibly difficult to stabilize or neutralize in terms of alkaline acid emotionally and every which way. So it's amazing that you've come so far. It's absolutely fantastic. And all those extreme chronic conditions that you had, and they were extreme as I understand it, to, you know, at least one or two of them to a degree. You know, that is really a fantastic indictment to the lifestyle that was, and also a fantastic congratulations to the lifestyle that is for you. Now, I know that you're very intuitively connected to your own path, and you were saying to me on the pre-show chat that you had a kind of an awakening, and you said it really was an awakening, and that took you on this sort of next leg of your journey. And I think that's really fascinating, and I'm sure everyone would love to hear about that and what precipitated where you are now in the beautiful Dominican Republic.
Now, which part of the awakening would you like to hear? Because
okay, well, the one I was thinking of was where you did wake up, where it was a waking up at night.
Oh, okay.
But tell us about all the rest.
Actually, I just want to say that I really appreciate that what you just said, that although I was plagued with so many difficult issues, that I could still come out of that in the way that I have today. Not many people even express that or notice that or really think that that's possible because of how indoctrinated we have been in the system about health or disease. And what really, the insight that I now have is that we all come onto the planet with a DNA dysfunction. And most people come on with one organ or two that's kind of predispositioned for some type of dis-ease or discomfort. Mm-hmm. But what I don't think, what I've come to realize, let me put it this way. What I've come to realize, even though we all come on this planet with a DNA predisposition, you know, we also come in with a DNA spiritual gift. And while back then my focus was on the DNA dysfunction and not so much the gift, I couldn't seem to get out of the pattern of dis-ease. And so when I started to reflect on the DNA gift of my dysfunction and started patterning my life more in that way, I realized, wow, life is not separate from us, it's in us. And in the inner world, life begets life. And I just started to process that on an intuitive level, like that makes sense. If you increase the living essence of yourself, just like flowers or trees, you plant seeds, they grow. And the more life that we inundate ourselves with, why wouldn't we grow, especially with the proliferation of cells that we have on a daily basis, a monthly basis, a yearly basis. In 7 years, we're new people. So that became a truth for me, and it also became a practice. And as I became more awakened, my consciousness started to lead me. And when I speak about consciousness, most people say, oh, she's a conscious human being or he's a conscious human being. I believe we all have the capacity of consciousness, but I feel that it's a matter of whether we're swimming in the stream of consciousness. I feel we're either in it or we're out of it. So I started to realize when I was swimming in the stream of consciousness, I would start to become more and more aware and more awakened into what my life was really about and what life is really about. And so as that continued on, I was awakened about almost 11 years ago, I think, about 3 in the morning. I was in a dead sleep and just popped up, and I just heard this voice that said, go to the Dominican Republic. And I thought, oh, And I never even, I've never.
And where were you? Sorry, where were you at that time?
I was in the States.
Okay.
At that time, and I've never been to the Dominican Republic, didn't speak a lick of Spanish, couldn't even say hola. And so I thought that was very strange. I thought Dominican Republic, and it was so strange that when I woke up in the morning, and actually it said North Coast. It was very specific. And I got up in the morning and I thought, where, Dominican Republic, where is that? And then I realized that, you know, it was in the Caribbean and the geographical location. And I actually had an appointment with a chiropractic friend of mine that morning, and it was in November or so. And he, you know, he's a white guy. I mean, he was really tan, and of course that didn't make sense for the time of year. So I said to him, "Hey, where'd you just come from?" And he said, "The Dominican Republic." And it just happened to be the North Coast he was visiting. So anyway, one thing led to another, and 3 months later, 2 or 3 months later, I went to the North Coast to see what I was supposed to be following.
Well, I've got a question for you, and it's, have you had, or is the arthritis also gone? Has that been completely cleared?
100%. 100%. At 21 years old, I had bursitis and arthritis crippling, where it would take me 2 hours to literally get out of the bed. And I don't know if you can see my hands, but my hands were so gnarled up, and I'd wake up like this and I could hardly move them, and just achy, just really bad case of it. And it's actually one of the diseases that runs in my family, my father's side. And I've seen some of the relatives kind of crippled with that. And at this point in life, I'm 61 years old, and I don't have any signs of arthritis. And if anything, I should be feeling that at this age.
Well, congratulations. That's wonderful. Good for you. And do you think that the other part of the question to that is this all because you are on raw food or took raw food? Or were there other components?
No, absolutely not. It wasn't just because of raw foods. It was you know, I'm not a raw foodist now. I mean, I'm a raw foodist, but I'm like 80-20 or so. I include a lot of raw foods in my diet because of the life component to it. That's what's important to me. But I started to realize when I first started out as a raw foodist, for 7 years, I was like a evangelistic raw foodist, you know, like this is the cure-all, this is what, you know, this is what it is. But then I started to realize, you know, I was detoxing all the time, and I started to realize all the pieces didn't quite run true for what the raw foodists were professing. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, because I think that lifestyle is very essential to healthy living. But some of the things that really connected me back to life was connecting back to Mother Earth and the elements. And I believe Mother Earth is the greatest physician on the planet. And she's a living, breathing microorganism. And when we are disconnected from that, we're disconnected from our very spirit and consciousness of being, which is life. And so with the connection to, you know, eating better, breathing better, you know, fresh air, sunshine, touching my feet to the earth, just breathing, you know, good pure air, good water, those kinds of things. And also thinking differently and being in different kinds of relationships. So for me, it's about the whole life. It's not just about diet. It's not just about exercise. It is a combination of bringing all of your essence into wholeness and completion, and whatever that is for you and your purpose. And I think we all have a purpose. So I think I'm grateful that at that young age, I was plagued. And I probably had to be plagued to be where I am today. that I was plagued with all those ailments because it allowed me to grow in my medical intuitive processes. It allowed my spirit to become stronger. It allowed me to become much more of an empowered human being and connected to consciousness. And so it also allowed me to be a vehicle of truth for the fact that we have the power to heal ourselves.
Yeah, indeed. And you've done a sterling job, and, really well done. It's beautiful. And thank you for sharing that. It's so important to hear this kind of material, to hear the testimonies of people who've been through a process. And as Sage says, she's 61 or coming up 61. She looks phenomenal.
No, coming up 62.
62, oh God. You look phenomenal. I mean, you're so vibrant, so gorgeous. It's absolutely wonderful. And, this is, I think, how it should be. And, I'm taking a note out of your book for myself. So thank you for that timely reminder. Now, just moving on, when I was talking to you again before, we spoke about the ET component, and I would love to hear the story you told me about what you saw during a loo break. Well, we all have to do that, hey? So,
yeah, that's good. That's good.
And I just think that is, that's amazing. And it just brings really full circle, how what I'm doing is about communication and dissemination of information and trying to pick through it and understand and see where we all are in this. And with you and what you've experienced and following the lead in your heart. And interesting that your other half didn't mind moving to the Dominican Republic too. That was a bonus.
Yeah. True.
So go ahead and tell us about what happened. We're talking about some craft here.
Okay. I'll share this first that when I was younger, I was in basic religions, Methodists, and where they kicked me out of Sunday school because I asked too many questions, and to the point where I actually became a Jehovah's Witness, and we know how. Well, let me just put it this way. We know how different sects of religion can actually stay in a certain mindset for the rest of their lives.
Sure.
And so for me, as my processes, for me, the proof is in the pudding. And as I saw my life expanding and growing, that just gave me the courage to explore whatever there was out there of such high intelligence that was working through me, and I knew that it was a higher intelligence because it didn't harm me. It helped me. I wasn't crazy, and it's just like a lot of people say that to me now, you're so vibrant. You're so vibrant. It's not so much that, I may look well for my age, but there's the vibrancy for me is about that higher intelligence that flows through and continues to feed me. So with that said, I was open to, okay, what is that? What is that in the universe that is so supportive to humanity that I just went on a mission to just be open and aware to anything of positive influence. Now, I must say, I've always put the prayer out there that I only want to be influenced by beings that were of well-being and interested in my welfare and the welfare of humanity. That's my prayer. And I'm not very interested in any negative influences to steer me off in a toxic disease state. I was already there. So with that said, I started to receive messages. I would wake up every morning. I would call it my cosmic mailbox. I'd check in first thing in the morning and receive all these messages for the day, whether they were about other people or myself, and I was guided by that. And as time went on, I started to realize I had spirit guides. I started to realize I had ancestors supporting me. And one of them is my grandmother, my mother's mother, who helps me in my energetic healing work. And some other people actually shared things with me, like they saw people behind me. And one of my guys was Edgar Casey. So as the times went on, I realized the influences in my life that was making it so dramatically different and so incredibly awe-inspiring. And a part of those beings was extraterrestrial. And I didn't, I had a psychic who actually told me through a reading that she'd never ever seen this in her entire life of reading. But she explained that there was this bubble around me, full circle, and that it couldn't be penetrated, and it was coming from, the extraterrestrial beings. And they wanted me to know that, and I had already sensed that, and she really confirmed it. And of course, I think anybody that has any connection to that, people have always said, you're a little weird, or you're a little strange. I always got that as a young person and even an adult. And so when she shared that with me, it was like, oh, I want to know more about that. So one night, and this is what I'm going to share this with everybody as I shared it with you, I woke up to go to the bathroom to pee, as I do a couple of times. And I had this really full-length glass window, and I was sitting there, and we were right on the water, the bay, and I just was staring outside, and I looked up at the sky, as I always do, and there was these two. At that point, I didn't realize exactly what it was, but these two things just hovering, like a little light, suspended in midair, and I thought, is that an airplane? What is that? And I thought, okay, why are they still in the same place? So I sat there probably for 15 minutes just watching to see if it was going to move or not, and it didn't. It just hovered. So I went into the bedroom and I said to my husband, can you see me?
No, we can't, but don't worry, I've got an image of you there. We lost your image, but we can hear your lovely voice.
I'm back.
Okay.
Anyway, I asked my husband, I said, and it's just really interesting because at that point, he had just rolled over and woke up, which was very odd for him because he sleeps through the night. And I said, look out there. What do you see? What do you see? And he says, I don't know. It looks like a light in the sky. And I said, is it a plane? And he looked and he said, I don't know. And he said, maybe. And so after a few minutes, he said, no, it can't be a plane because it wasn't moving. It was just suspended. So I watched this thing for probably 25 minutes. And towards the end of 25 minutes, it's like I went into an altered state. And I got really rested on every level. My mind, my body, just a peaceful, serene kind of energy filled my body. And then all of a sudden, these two things became so crystal clear, like they were saucers, like like in the movies, E.T. Go Home. And they started to drop down almost to the water, and it suspended for a second, and then it just dropped right in the water. And I was living near a naval base, and I thought, is that an experiment? What is this? So the next few days I was looking in the news, or I was asking some local people, and nobody saw anything, nobody heard anything. But that was, one of the most incredible experiences I had, because shortly after that, as I went into that meditation, I started receiving messages about the influence that they would and are having on the planet, and that they were available to support people that were willing to be supported. And then they were essentially involved in me coming to the Dominican Republic.
And have you had any other communication with them then, Sage?
Well, yes. As I don't recognize any name or any being as a particular kind of form, but
Right.
the voice and the essence is of that particular, the energy of that particular being. And as I said, before I literally moved to the Dominican Republic, I had a week-long intervention, spiritual and connection about why I was going and what it was about and what I should be open to. And one of the things was about, it was the head seat of Atlantis. And I thought, well, I had, heard some things on my spiritual journey about Atlantis and, the lost planet. We know a little bit about that. And also that this was a journey about the ancestors. And I was going to the land of the mother of all lands. And I thought, wow. So I had received all this information. And then about a week later, I was at the Edgar Cayce Center. And I was I went upstairs initially to meditate. And at the end of the meditation, I heard head seat of Atlantis again. And then I was directed to go down to the bookstore. Did you want to ask me something?
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to, I didn't quite hear what you were saying. Is it head seat of Atlantis? What was that?
Yes, head seat, like the main seat of Atlantis.
Okay, sorry. I thought it was, but I wasn't quite sure what that meant. Okay.
Yeah, which is really surprising to me because, everybody talks about Bimini and those things.
Yeah.
And I'd never heard anything about the Dominican Republic. And right after that, after I came out of the meditation, I was guided to go into the bookstore. I was told, go to the bookstore, we will tell you where to stand, and we will point you in the direction of this particular book. And it's a red cover. So lots of information. So that's what I do. I go down, and all of a sudden I heard stop, and I look up, and there's this red book. And I pulled it out, and it said Hispaniola. I actually have it on my bookshelf. It's been so many years, I can't remember the exact title now. I'll have to tell you that later, but it's something about Hispaniola, which is the name of the Dominican Republic. And I didn't even realize Hispaniola was the Dominican Republic. And so I just started... No, it was Atlantis, something about Atlantis on the front cover. So I thought, okay, this is connected to my meditation. So I thought, okay, what do you want me to do? So I just heard leaf through the contents. And the table of contents, I went down, I forget which chapter at this point, and I saw Hispaniola, the head seat of Atlantis.
How amazing.
That's what I said.
How funky
I said,
is that?
oh my. And so anyway, one thing led to another, and I started doing, after all of my guided meditations and information, I started researching some things. And I said Edgar Cayce is one of my guides, and one of the things that he predicted was that, I think in the 1990s, that a blue stone, which I have on, called Larimar, a blue stone would be found in this particular area where Atlantis had gone down, and it would only be found in one place. And that stone has come to be known as Larimar, and the only place you can find it now in the mines and all is the Dominican Republic.
Well,
So-
I just have to tell you that I thought, is that the name of the stone? One of the wonderful experiencers who spoke for me at my conference, Catherine McLaughlin, she actually made me a beautiful necklace of Larimar and amethyst. And she said, you have to have that. So, I mean, my goodness, that's a bit of a synchronicity. Yeah. Wow, how funky is that? I hadn't even heard of Larimar before, I have to say. Sorry, I just had to say, I thought, oh my God, is that the same thing? Yes, it was. Wow.
Yes. And actually, it's probably good as a psychic and a medium that I don't remember stuff, so I can unload what, I share with my clients or they share with me. So I always forget names and certain information. But I say for some reason, when I went to sit down to connect the internet with you, something, one of those voices said, hey, take your little crystal Bible and just read a little excerpt to her about what Larimar represents. So can I share 2 lines?
Oh, please do.
Okay. Okay, let's see with this, if I can see this really good. Larimar is one of the spiritual stones that open to new dimensions, stimulating evolution of the earth.
How gorgeous. Thank you. That's lovely. Beautiful.
One of the reasons I wanted to share that is because I know that has a lot to do with the ET experiences and the fact that Dominican Republic is, there is a name that the original name of the Dominican Republic was Quisqueya, the Taino name. And I was on a tour, my first time here, and I was going through the villages, and they were, drinking their rum and all of this stuff, and they had a beer up, and somebody said something about Quisqueya, and I didn't have a clue about that name, but what I said, I just yelled out with, I think there were 40 people on the bus, and I said, what does that mean? And some, the Dominican said, Mother of all lands. So I found that to be very interesting, and if you look at my site, I have this video of the 10 major vortexes on the planet, and one was the Dominican Republic.
That's amazing. And I have put your website up in the chat room, and it is on the podcast place as well. And it's the Power Living Retreat.
Yes.
Is that right? Is that the whole word, whole phrase?
Yes. Okay. Power Living Retreat. Okay. That's one of my sites. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's a .com as well. So, and there's so many extraordinary elements to, your journey. And I know we're a bit short of time, so just continue perhaps for a couple more minutes on your strand of thought there, and maybe just tell us what you're doing at your wonderful retreat.
Well, what I've been guided to do is to help people come back to living their life. I think that most people are having life live them, and most people aren't even living. And I've also come to realize that at this point in time in history, we cannot get through this evolution without the support and guidance of Mother Earth. And I believe that the Native Americans, the primitives, were the original beings that were held the sacred truths of the planet. And it was really interesting that they happened to be the beings that were the most exterminated. And because they connected with that living microorganism of Mother Earth, they knew how to live. They knew how to use the sun. They knew how to use the waters. They knew how to use the air. And we're at a place in time in history where everything is contaminated, including us. It doesn't matter how evolved you are. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter about any of those physical things anymore. If we are not connected to the spirit, the great spirit, whatever you want to call it, and Mother Earth beneath our feet, it makes it nearly impossible to live a life these days. So that's the big part of retreat, is helping people to unlearn life. We've been damaged. We've been
Yeah.
done harm. We do harm. And we need to learn how to live naturally again. And it's very challenging to do that without being re-educated in a very simple way. Life is simple. We're complicated.
Yeah. Yes, I think essentially so. And what do you have at the retreat? Is it a place where people come and stay, have a week or two, or how does it work? And what do you offer once people are there, specifically?
Okay. One particular thing that I do because of my life journey is I do private whole life healings. People with chronic conditions, whether it's cancer or high blood pressure or whatever those ailments are. And I help turn people back around into their true nature, their higher selves, so that they can be empowered and learn how to take care of themselves. As I said to you, one of the things I really hate doing is taking care of people. It sounds really crazy for a healer, but what I love to do is help empower people to take care of themselves. So that includes private retreats, it includes group retreats, it can include a weekend retreat that might include some beautiful nature excursions, and I use Mother Earth as an intricate part of the treatments. They're clay baths, we're in the sea salt, the rivers, the mineral pools, so there's many elements to what I do. It includes a lifestyle change for, a certain dietary shift, a spiritual healing work, energy work. It includes a consciousness awakening. And I also channel the ancestors of the people to help them understand what their DNA dysfunction is so that they can start to break the pattern and move into the gifts. So basically the retreats are to get to the root cause of what is really ailing you, that's blocking you in your life, so you can be more available to the truths that are out there for us.
And because you're also a medical intuitive to an extraordinary degree, as far as I can tell, where I know you've already said it, but just to flag that up again, because I'm sure it must help in the work that you do otherwise, that you can literally see what it is that ails a person.
Absolutely. I'm really grateful for that gift because, on the first session, I can go in and I can see where, just do a body scan, whether it's on the telephone or in person, that where the energy is being blocked, what that is, where it came from, and what needs to happen to release and heal it. So it's not just for me. My focus is not just about disease. It's about the direction it's taking you to.
All right. So you can also do those then remotely, by the sounds of it, by phone and I assume Skype.
Yes. Yes, it's what I call my medical intuitive assessment telephone.
That's excellent. I only came across anything, I don't know if it's even similar, perhaps it's not similar, when I was in the Philippines and there was an amazing healer who didn't speak any English, or we couldn't communicate with him, but we went to a kind of a service, I guess you'd call it, and he would come, and after sort of the prayers and meditation, which is just to get the mind attuned, he would ask for someone to go up who needed some support, and he would hold a piece of A4 paper, just clear paper, clean paper, nothing written on it, to the body, and he would use it as really a bit like a magnifying glass. And he said he needed the paper as interface. It was, the interpreter said, just to give him something on which, for the, if you like, image to be reflected, which was absolutely extraordinary. And to see him working on so many people and being correct each time. And then once he saw the issue, he would then set about healing that. Absolutely amazing. But you're a step further. You don't need the paper either, but...
Well, I think that's what my process of disease has led me to, where I asked to be a channel to understand and support. and the beings that work through me. I don't take any credit. I think on my own I would probably be scared to death, but I allow myself to be used as a channel by the higher beings to see what there is to see, to support what there is to support.
It's really exciting, and what a wonderful service and a wonderful job you're doing. And just to finish up, because we're just about at the top of the hour, just to go back to the positive ET element again. I know you said that you are in touch with them, and it seems to be a regular thing. Have they given you any information or indication of where things are so tough now and so kind of skewed on the planet, time-wise, or what there might be that may turn the tide into a positive thing?
Actually, yes, I've gotten some information about that. There has been, I think that's why we're seeing that we can even be talking about this right now. There has been such an influence through media. You know, I've been told that a lot of the movie directors and filmmakers and those kinds of people, because of their creative minds, are downloading a lot of information from the different realms that they may not know it. Some of them may know it. I don't know. But they are using, and they have been using those people over a period of time to put things out there that we can even have these conversations right now without being called crazy. And one of the things that I've been getting about that is that they are so available. They're also using the ancestors to help their lineage to prepare for this evolution that's already happening. We're evolving as we speak with the support of all of these beings. And Mother Earth is not going anywhere. They are guaranteeing that Mother Earth is not going to be destroyed. And they've also said to me that they have a vested interest in that. And that's one of the reasons why, as a group of conscious beings, that it's time for us to come together more in community spirit, so that the energy of each of us can be more prolific versus this, well, we know what that old paradigm, you know, with the Native American Indians called the ways of the white man. And you know, so things are shifting in a evolution, just and accelerated. We don't even have the time to think anymore. And you'll notice a lot of people are having issues with depression and anxiety and lots of head stuff, because they're still trying to use the mind and intelligence in the same old way that's basically destroyed the world. And
can I just ask you, sorry to interrupt, just wanted to ask you, just before we really do come to the close, if you know whether they are running the Matrix program?
When you say they are included with other groups of beings. So yes, the answer is yes, but it's not just them. So it's interesting you said they, because they are including several different combinations of extraordinary beings. Now, are you talking about the Matrix in the negative way, or are you talking about the evolutionary reality of the reality? So I should ask you that, because I just responded to that.
It was a question that came in, so I'm not quite sure. You know, we tend to think of the Matrix as the, you know, the program running us, and that doesn't tend to be a positive thing. And just that you had referred to them as they, so that was, I only emphasized they just to let you know that it was not us, but they. Holographic universe is a phrase that's coming up.
Yeah. So when I speak of the matrix as they speak of it, it's not necessarily. It's interesting. Did you saw Matrix 1, 2? And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
I didn't. Yeah.
You said you didn't?
No, I did.
Oh, you did. Okay. I didn't see 1, and then I started having clients call me with 2 and said, "What do you think of this?" And so I went to see it for that reason. But the Oracle, when she was speaking and all the things going on, and it was very interesting to me, because even though there was the matrix of that negative, paradigm kind of thing happening, it was also a matrix of reality that was forcing you to see that through this old paradigm matrix kind of process.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Sage Gaia, for being with us. And perhaps, again, another time we can have you back and we can explore this whole area a little bit further. And I hope you've enjoyed being with us on People's Internet Radio. And a big thank you to everyone who's listened, and to Stephen Roberts for holding the fort for us here. Thank you very much indeed. So it's over and out from the Ammach Files for another week, and next week will be the year's anniversary. So I'll see you then.
Thank you, Joanne.
Thanks very much. And people, the information on the Power Living Retreat is on the podcast site on the Tuesday section, of course. So thank you very much, everybody. And Vin, I hope you've got your mic problem sorted. Bye, everyone. Night.
Ciao.
Bye for now. Ammach Files.
See through the back door. When I went to make a cup of coffee, I normally go to my back in the sky, which is quite normal for me. And I don't see very often, very much. But over the last 3 weeks, there's been a held-up of triangles. It's mainly triangle. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, coming through loud and clear for me.
It's mainly triangles I'm seeing. I saw a ball of fire come over. I live in an old people's block, and a friend of mine who's a farmer lives at the other end of the block. When I saw the 3 triangles on the Sunday night I was talking to you, Joanne, remember?
Yes, I do.
You remember that?
Yes, I do.
On the Sunday, sorry, that was Thursday night I saw the triangle. On Sunday, he came to me. Now, he's a farmer. He knows nothing about anything but sheep, cows, and fields. He doesn't know anything else. He's got no idea of anything. And he come over to me and he said, "You're an ex-soldier, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "What are the rockets that firing? The army are firing up." I said, "What are you talking about?" And when he's out in the fields at night with the sheep, he's a very old man. He's nearly 80. He just retired yesterday, actually. He decided to retire, which is a good thing. He said he's seeing these balls of fire in the sky, looking like rockets, slow rockets. He hasn't got a clue what he's talking about. He's seeing it all the time. Over the last 60 years, he's seen these things. So he didn't exactly see what I saw, because he was on the other side of the block and he couldn't see what I was seeing, and I couldn't see what he was seeing. But what he saw, I saw it about 6, 8 months ago, coming the opposite way, put it that way. Which is very interesting, I think, because there's a man talking to me who knows nothing at all except sheep, cows, fields and tractors. He knows nothing at all. He's got no idea of life. Very lovely man, he really is.
So on to a lot of other physical things that we can use, or we have. The impression marks, the radar returns, things like that, they're all good, but people still want more. So the biolocation team's workshop on the 31st of October is about giving you guys some tools which you can do your own experimenting and research, and hopefully begin to feed back a body of information that will grow as it has been growing over the last 4 years with those guys. And so we can really have something in the UK that is you know, really of some weight out there in the field of this research area, which is so important. So do come along there if you haven't done that already. You can book your place online at www.ammach.co.uk or www.alienabductionuk.com. If you want to come and you don't want to pay by PayPal, you can pay on the door, but I need to know, folks. So give me a buzz or a text on the Ammach line, or send me an email at ammach@hotmail.co.uk, so I know, because I'm providing a light lunch and I need to know numbers. So that's that bit with the biolocation. And do, as I say, look up their work as well. And I'll be reporting on that down the line over the year as I become much more involved and embedded in the work that they're doing. It really is groundbreaking stuff. And it's a first. There is no one else doing this work on the planet the way they are. So, to tonight's show. I have two wonderful guests. The first hour, I have invited Bill Brooks. Now, I have to really practice that, because Bill has taken another pseudonym, and this is it, for safety reasons. I'm not going to go into the reasons for the safety or the need for that safety issue. I just hope you guys will bear with me. It is important. I know now and again it happens that when people give me information or provide a confidential connection, and then that goes public, sometimes there are other elements that come on board and can cause real problems. And sometimes it is down to personal safety. And I'm sure you appreciate that I have to look after the folks who come to me. And so for that reason, I'm going to introduce Bill Brooks, and he is all the way over in Wales. Now, there will be some of you who will know his name, know his voice rather, won't know his new name, know him by the old name, and you can ask me if you like by message and I will reply. But we're going to hear a particular part of Bill's story tonight, but we are going to invite him on first just to hear what it was like to come back from the dead. Because this time last year, bar a few days, he died. So he died quite dramatically, and it was only because of an unusual occurrence, i.e. the paramedic had never before had the kit in his bag to do the defib, that he is with us today. So that tells me that this guy is pretty special and has some more very important material to share. Since we have written the book together, which is, as we speak, with a publisher, which is called 44, that gives you all a big clue there, Bill has had more sightings and some other downloads, which have not all gone in the book. We have to, at some point, draw a line. So I'd like you all to give a warm welcome by a ah and a distinct listening voice there to Bill. So, hey, Bill, welcome to the Ammach Files in your new identity. How are you?
Good evening.
Have we got you? Good evening.
How are you?
I'm really good. What's the weather like with you? Are you being rained on out of house and home?
It's peaking.
Listen, we might have a little bit of difficulty with the breakup of Skype there, Bill, so we will do our best to hang on to you for this hour. But I'd just like to go back to some of the things that you've been telling me you've been seeing in the skies over the last, I don't know if it's just the recent days, but certainly over the last month. Almost daily we were speaking at one time, and you were saying, I can't believe it, they're there again. So just tell us some of the images that you were seeing through your window at home whilst you were making coffee in between phone calls to me.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, so when you mentioned, because you mentioned the UFO thing to him, didn't you?
No.
You didn't say that they might be UFOs?
What I'd say is probably UFOs, but
all right, yeah.
He wouldn't have took that on board. He wouldn't know what a UFO was. He said,
yeah.
Are they beyond the UFOs? Because I said he's probably a UFO. And he said, is that what they call them in the army? He didn't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
He's a lovely man, but he hasn't got any idea of anything but cows and sheep.
Yeah. I mean, that's just interesting, isn't it, as corroboration from another party. And again, everybody's looking for corroboration and evidence. So it's just, and it's nice for you. I remember you saying at one time, God, you know, am I the only person seeing all of this? Is there nobody else?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that was really, really interesting. The other thing that I really wanted to flag up for this evening's program, and it's a bit of an unusual one because it isn't overtly UFO or ET, but I think, and maybe you think, there is a relationship. Now, I just want to say, just addressing everybody, that Bill has had some absolutely anomalous and very strange, high weirdness strange events, and one or two of them have run the course of many, many years, causing him a tremendous amount of distress and concern and absolute puzzlement as to why. Now, I'll get Bill to talk about this shortly, but I'm just going to play a clip in a moment, which is of Fred West. Fred West was the partner of two serial killers, Fred and Rosemary West, who were captured in the early 90s. And before I tell you much more about that, I'm going to play this clip because that's going to give you, this is actually an interview done with the police, and it's an interview with Fred West. Hello and welcome to, can you believe it, it's program 51 of the Ammach Files, and it is the 6th of October and absolutely pouring down here. Don't know what it's like where you guys are, but anyway, glad to say I got my new fire up and burning fantastically, so no more freezing nights. Hallelujah, that's wonderful. So the Ammach Files in 2015, coming to the end of the first year. Now, I just want to remind people, in case they've forgotten, that there is a workshop with the biolocation team on the 31st of October. Now, that is a Saturday. It's a day workshop. We're starting 10:30, finishing 4:30. Now, the forensic dowsing, or they sometimes say that sensing is also a good term to use, is all about looking at the tools that these guys have devised and also using some of the archaeological terms like stains that are already around and seeing how they apply to what these guys have been finding and seeing. Now, these are holographic entities, sometimes actually there, and other times these are old images. For example, Hillary Porter had a jumper with some splatters on. I think I mentioned this before, and they were able to see in the magnetic field a 3D holographic image of what it was that she'd encountered, which had that relationship to those spatter marks. So this is really super exciting stuff. It is another level of evidence. Everybody always calls for evidence in this field, and it is super difficult to get it. It is so subjective. But now and again, we get these really material things. So we do have the jumper. There has been already, although it's 20 years ago, a higher than normal, but still quite small, background gamma radiation recorded. So it shows that there is some anomaly with the jumper. And, there are